Broncos country, what's going on? ESPN absolutely hates the Broncos roster, and I think this is hilarious. We're going to get into it here in just a second. Y'all be sure to let me know your thoughts on this piece. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers, but let's go ahead and get into it. ESPN, in a collaboration with a lot of their writers, put together essentially a power ranking of the best to worst rosters in the NFL. And our Denver Broncos ended up, after an 8-win season, at 31, only ahead of the New York Giants, which I don't think I agree with them being the worst roster in football either, but that's another conversation. I thought I would read through what they said and how some of this just doesn't make any sense to me. Okay. Biggest strength. They go on and say, here, it's the offensive line. Okay. They talk about Mike McGlinchey, Garrett Bowles. You know, they're good tackles. I feel Ben Powers, Quinn Miners. But this is where I don't really feel like they're doing their homework, or this is more of just kind of a very casual evaluation, which makes sense. All 32 teams, I get it. But saying that new center Sam Mustipher is a potential concern, well, from my understanding, he's not even running with the ones. It's been Alex Forsyth and Wattenberg competing for the number one center job. Sam Mustipher is essentially an insurance policy, sort of like Levi Wallace as well, which we'll get to, okay? But that was the first red flag, that they got no idea what's going on with this roster. And then the biggest weakness, they talk about safety. Yes, we did lose all pro, and I love Justin Simmons, okay? But when we had Justin Simmons, it's not like we were going to the playoffs or anything like that when safety was one of our best position groups with Kareem Jackson, right? I thought that was interesting. We got a lot of young guys that, again, we'll have to see if they can stay healthy this year. Caden Stearns, PJ Locke, Brandon Jones. I think that's a pretty solid um, safety group. And you've seen the NFL start to devalue safety. It's just not as important as of a position as it used to be. So I think that's pretty interesting that we're ranked the worst or the second to worst roster in football when our biggest strength is the offensive line and the biggest weakness is safety. All right, let's continue to move on. X Factor for 2024 edge rusher Nick Bonino. I think we're all expecting a nice little jump from Nick Bonino as well as the rest of our edge group. Of course, they've talked about we got Jonathan Cooper, Baron Browning, Jonah Ellis coming into the fold, and hopefully one of those guys. My hope is that Jonah Ellis can establish himself by the end of the year, be that alpha edge in the room. But I think Jonathan Cooper, we got a bunch of solid guys, not elite yet. And hopefully a guy out of this group can establish themselves as an elite pass rusher. If so, we're going to be winning a lot of games. Then I thought this was interesting. Non-starter to know Josh Reynolds. Okay. I mean, Josh Reynolds making a lot more money than Tim Patrick is this year. Granted, they have about the same amount of cap hit from what I remember, but Josh Reynolds making a lot more money. I would expect Josh Reynolds to be a starter on this team ahead of Tim Patrick. We haven't seen Tim Patrick play in over 2 years now. So, again, I feel like ESPN's evaluation of this team, again, it probably only takes an hour or two to really do your research and understand like what guys that are reporting on the team are saying in terms of starters, competition, all of that. But as we get into, let me just edit this here really quick, the projected starting lineups. I thought that this was pretty interesting because, again, I think it just goes to show that they just don't really know this roster. Again, you're seeing Sam Mustipher right there as a projected starter, Tim Patrick as a projected starter. I think he's probably that fourth guy or so, with Josh Reynolds being in the fold. And then again, I understand Levi Wallace is that insurance policy, but I really I would expect Riley Moss to be that starting cornerback unless something crazy happens. So I don't necessarily agree with this evaluation of Denver being the second worst roster in football. Again, I thought we had a worse roster last year. We had a bunch of busts, but big names. I'm putting together another Lucas Kroll film review, taking a look at his first half against the Chargers. And I don't know if Jerry Jeudy was credited with 3 drops during this first half, but he had 3 drops when I was looking at the field. Again, we had some big names that we lost, but I don't know if they were all that important to the team. Russell Wilson's a big name, but he was a bad quarterback for us, okay? I understand Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson is not the sexiest quarterback room out there. But again, I think a lot of people that know football do expect to see better quarterback play from this team this year than what we saw last year from Russell Wilson, and most definitely 2 years ago from what we saw from Russell Wilson. I just don't understand how you can say that this is the second to worst roster in football when the strength is the offensive line, when the X factor is the edge room, when the weakest position group is safety. To me, this just feels like a casual take. I don't know how you can rank the Broncos behind teams like the Washington Commanders, the Carolina Panthers, or God forbid, the New England Patriots, who probably had the most barren roster in all of football this past year and going into this season. I would say that. I think that this is hilarious. I want the NFL media to continue to sleep on the Broncos. Again, there's been plenty of off seasons to where people have been very high on the moves that we've made. I mean, remember just a few off seasons ago, we're putting all these weapons around KJ Hamler, Jerry Jeudy, all these guys, putting them around Drew Lock, and what did we get? You know, a bunch of coal for Christmas. You know, that's what we got. But guys, my opinion on this is let it just be motivation, hopefully, to the team to prove people wrong. Again, Sean Payton's never lost or never won less than 7 games in his entire NFL coaching career. It's just hard for me to understand where we got significantly worse to be an average football team, which is where we were last year, 8-9. And you can say, okay, maybe we overachieved a little bit. That's fine. I understand that. But you're telling me because we got rid of a 5'10 quarterback in Russell Wilson and Justin Simmons that all of a sudden this is the second worst roster in the NFL? Am I crazy, guys? Y'all let me know. Got a Lucas Kroll film room coming tomorrow. Kroll gang, Kroll crew. We need a name for it, but going to highlight some of the things that he's very good at, as well as what he needs to improve on to be that 3-down tight end for us, because he's not there yet. And hopefully he can make those strides to become that for us. So y'all be sure, smash that like, subscribe on the way out after you comment. Thank you so much, Broncos country. Let them keep hating. We'll prove them wrong. Go Broncos.